Hey everybody, welcome back to the Capes Cast podcast. I'm Ryan. I'm Jeremy. God, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking.
And I'm Jeremy, I mean Ryan.
We're not doing this in the morning ever again.
I know, man. It's too damn early. It's way too early, bro.
Uh, yeah, so I am Ryan today, and he's Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. But for real though, we're gonna be talking about Comic-Con news mainly. There's a lot of news. Some pretty cool,
Yeah.
some so cool.
Yeah.
But then we're probably gonna talk a little bit of Turtles at the end. Jason Aaron. He
Oh,
started the new #1 for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yes,
So
sir.
correct me if I'm wrong. This is the second volume for IDW, but like the third total volume of Turtles.
Yeah. So think of this as like, yeah, when IDW kind of restarted, they did like a new revamp of Turtles with a new origin.
Right.
This isn't a reboot where Jason Aaron's at. It's more of like a just like a soft reboot jumping on point. So like the 115 issues that led up to this point still happened, but I guess you don't
Right.
really they're not
If
really gonna mention it,
yeah,
letting you jump
yeah,
in
because they like we'll go into it a little bit later, but yeah, that's how I understand it. It's like the third total volume of like the whole series, but
pretty much.
also it's like kind of not necessarily like a reboot or reimagining. It's just like a continuation with a different direction, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense.
Because from what I've seen, basically from the way that it ended before Aaron got on, it was like the turtles are all kind of disbanded. They're all in different places. So we're
Yeah, and that's kind of what this issue was a bit about.
right. And if you remember, they released that like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha issue.
Yeah.
They did that, and in that one, it shows Donatello, and he's not inside like a prison, but he's like held captive.
Hmm.
Basically, like he's kidnapped and held captive somewhere.
Yeah. I they barely mention the others in this issue, which is kind of like the one thing I didn't really like is like I understand that each issue is kind of going to be about one of the turtles, but to get like little bits of stuff about the other three in this would have been nice. It's just literally Raphael.
Right, but Jason Aaron said basically he's basically trying to bring it back to the Mirage days.
Yeah.
And when the Mirage Turtles started, it started with Michelangelo #1, Raphael #1,
Okay.
Leonardo #1. So he's basically trying to do that all again to like nostalgia for Mirage.
Yeah, because it definitely seems like it's less like Saturday morning cartoon
Oh,
style, more like the like original Mirage stuff, which
yeah,
I think will be good because for the most part, it seems like people are kind of like Turtles has gotten kind of stale,
right,
other than Last Ronin, you know.
right, right.
Uh, but yeah, let's chat about Comic Con.
Yes, sir.
Um, before we go over like the announcements, what was your favorite thing announced, like overall?
Be honest with you, probably the JLU announcement. Probably that's
That was,
basically
that was a good
you and I
announcement.
have been asking for that this whole time. We're
Yeah,
like, hey, if we get a new Justice League, please let it be either Mark Wade or Phil Kennedy Johnson doing it, like one or the other.
yeah. I when was it? We it was right around the time Dark Crisis was happening, I think, right?
Mhm.
Like Williamson had just put out the Justice League 75. Dark Crisis got the renaming to oh, it wasn't what was it Dark Crisis?
Yeah. After that, it was Dark Crisis, and then it turned into Dark Crisis
Then
on
it was
Earth.
yeah, and then it was Lazarus Planet. Okay. So like and I remember like after the Justice League being like gone and we got the Titans instead, we both kind of knew that the league being gone wouldn't last a super long time, a couple
Right.
years. I didn't even think it was going to last this long, to be honest with you. We got what? Not even 2 years worth of Titans of a Titan series before they came back. It's barely on issue what 14.
14, but remember we did get Beast World in there too.
I
So
mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it didn't really do anything.
right.
You know what I mean? Like it was kind of just a nothing burger event.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, it was kind of a wasted initiative, I think, to try and push them to the front because nothing really happened with them. Nobody really bought into it, like
Right,
which
and not even that, like, after Beast World, it just went into the most, like, generic Titan story ever where it's like, "Hey, we got evil Raven taking
which
over
like
again."
yeah, like and I feel like and I'm not the biggest like the Titans are cool, like
Yeah,
I like a lot of those characters, but like as a team, I've just never been super invested in them. I don't under like this is why people complain about the Titans not having a long series because they end up falling into the same traps I feel where it's just like let's do the generic, you know, sidekick villains, yeah, I don't need to see Raven be bad again
right, again.
for like the X, number of time,
Yeah.
whatever. It was never really grabbing me anyway. But
I
this
mean, it's kind of
we
a waste too because they set that whole plot point up in Night Terrors, and it's like that's what we led
yeah.
to. Like we had Doctor Hate. Well, we had the Helmet of Fate. Basically get messed up in Lazarus Planet to then go into Night Terrors, give to Doctor Hate, and then for us to just find out, oh, it was Evil Raven this whole time.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty underwhelming reveal.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think we'd always pretty much been like full steam ahead, at least Dan Mora doing Justice League.
right. Well, I
Mm.
mean, it was probably the most disappointing news finding out Mora wasn't on World's Finest anymore, but to find this out was like, all right, I'll
Yeah.
talk.
So like I guess that's a pretty good trade-off is because not only do you get him on the main Justice League book for like main continuity and we get Wade on it, which I don't know how long we've been calling that, man. It's got to have been like a while
Yeah,
because it was and I feel like we had that conversation a lot where it was like it's either Wade or Philip Kennedy Johnson. That's who we would like. Like Mora, we were pretty much set on in terms of art, but like I wasn't gonna be like hurt if it was somebody else. You know what I mean? I was gonna
right.
be like, oh, that sucks. Like I would have been fine. As long as it wasn't like Riley Rossmo or something
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. Or Ramon
Um,
Perez,
Dude,
yeah,
I don't know that I could do an entire book of just all of those like Giga Chad Bart faces, bro,
yeah,
or
no,
like Barry, where it's just
right. I mean, we
lips
could have got
pouted, like
Wade. We could have
jawline
got a
sharp.
Wade Ramirez Jr. Justice League. That would have been. Oh man.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, like, and I part during that time, I remember thinking like, because Jason Aaron was starting like to announce DC stuff, his Superman All Stars arc came and went. He's been
Right
doing off,
after a poorly received Avengers run, that was
yes, yeah. So like, that was my biggest fear was like, because he just came off of a multi-year Avengers run, which some people really enjoyed. I was not one of them. So it was kind of like, it was kind of like a 50-50 if you liked it or not.
yeah.
Um,
I don't see how anybody wasn't turned off by the whole BC Avengers thing, and
yeah, I mean, and like those characters are cool, and I think the Squadron Supreme like deserves a spot, but like it was like think around that time where like that couple of years where Marvel was like, let's just go ahead and reuse event names.
right. And a lot of that was like, like a Conan, right? Like Conan was very heavily in it, right?
Yeah, there was some Conan stuff closer to the beginning, and then you had like Sat because that was like when it was weird because Marvel had acquired the rights to it, and he was like being used in the Marvel universe, but in like very sparing ways. Like if they went back in time and they just happened to be there, he was there. Or like he's in Savage Avengers. Or I want to say he even had like he might have had his own series while he was under the Marvel banner. But then there was some rights issues a couple years ago and Titan acquired it. So all of that shit just means nothing now.
Yeah, nothing.
Like it just is worthless.
Yeah.
So like if you want to read Conan on the Avengers, you're gonna get like one, maybe two good volumes, I think is what it was of Savage Avengers, and they're both minis. And I couldn't even tell you if he's on both in both volumes.
Right.
Like they kind of squandered the licensing for Conan, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like with Aaron. I was super concerned that with him coming to DC, he was going to be the Justice League writer when they brought them back because of how long he was writing Avengers, and it makes sense to like bring somebody over that's just come off Avengers and that's like been pretty, somewhat well received to just kind of like let's see what happens, But things happen, absolute power is happening, and now, I mean, clearly they are confident that Wade can handle them because he's
Of course.
writing the book now. Which he's 100% the best choice. There's no other choice that's
Right.
better than Wade right now to write this book. The exciting part about it is that he'll be writing literally everybody.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, when asked about like who the roster would be, he said everyone. Like, think of a
Right.
hero, they'll be in it. Which that is how it needs to be. Like,
It's with
I
the title because they were all in a Justice League Unlimited, the show. Like you saw
yeah,
all of them in the background. At least they were in the background.
yeah, exactly. Or like you'd have, and like I think what is most exciting about this is the idea that like literally any one of our favorite heroes could just show up and be in an arc or be in an issue or just like be an important character for like, for an extended period of time.
But I mean, we kind of see that in World's Finest. Like we see all these
Yeah.
random characters that Wade just wants to pull out of the toy box to play with. So the
Yeah.
fact that he has an idea to play with all these endless action figures basically for his run for Justice League, I think this is going to be iconic because the last time I think he did was his JLA after Morrison
Yeah.
with the Tower of Babel and
Hmm.
all that stuff. So it's like to be able to get Wade back, and then not only that, to be able to have it under Mora, which we see how tight they are.
Yeah.
So
They really enjoy working together. And
yeah,
like I I have to imagine that like for somebody like Wade, it's probably super refreshing to work with somebody like Dan Mora who's like so hungry to like put out work and just likes to create stuff like new ideas, new designs, new everything. Like he just loves to do it. So I'm
right.
sure for somebody like Wade who's been in the game for a really long time, that's like kind of who can see how stagnant things can get. It's probably like a refreshing thing for him to be able to work with somebody like Dan
Yeah,
because he's just like the cream of the crop, you know?
yeah.
It's
He's
like it's
literally
it
one of the top three artists right now in comics. Like I would say.
oh no doubt, dude.
Yeah,
Like I say all the time, man. Like he is a like once in a generation talent.
yeah,
Like if comics for whatever reason die at like, 100 year in like, in 100 years, like this era is gonna be known as like Dan Mora's era for
yeah.
art.
Like 100%.
Like, like you see like in the 60s, you've got Jack Kirby, he's solidified himself as the king. 60s and 70s is Kirby.
Right.
But when you have like 2010s, 2020s, Dan Mora will
Yeah,
absolutely be remembered as like that guy.
yeah. 100%. It's gonna be
Um, but yes, I'm super excited for Justice League Unlimited. I cannot wait. Um, mine isn't necessarily like an announcement. I don't think my favorite thing. It's just the idea that DC's like really making an effort to like one kind of go back to basics. Like and they're even doing it with their logo. They're going back to like the old bullet logo.
love it.
Like yeah,
Love
it's my favorite one. It's the best one.
it.
Um,
Reminds me so much of like just like the 90s.
exactly. And I was gonna say that like late 80s, early 90s, like DC was like prime.
Yeah,
So like I like the idea that they're really focusing on like not necessarily nostalgia, but realizing that like almost like they should be taking inspiration from some of their best eras and using that to tell stories now, which is kind of what it seems like they're doing.
right. I
So
mean,
I,
making
I
this logo with the Elseworlds imprint too that they're bringing back
yeah,
feels like a total like
it's
resurgence of
yes.
prime DC in the 90s.
And I'm loving it, man. I am 100% here for it. I think it is a great idea. But yeah,
I mean, speaking of Mora, we got him back on Superman. He's on Superman now
that's right
with
too. Yeah.
Williamson. So the fact he's gonna be doing JLU and Superman is
Hey, man, he's
yeah,
top of his career right now, bro.
yeah, beast.
Um, your least favorite announcement.
Mostly, well, you know what I'm gonna say here.
So should we save it for the end?
Yeah, because you know what
Okay,
I'm gonna
because
say
we're in
here.
agreement, I think.
Yeah, But
Like it's a close.
as comic wise, I found Marvel's to be very underwhelming compared to DC's announcements,
Yeah.
just because I feel like DC's really making an effort to bring back writers that I feel like they might have had falling outs with, like maybe, Jeff Lemire, because that whole thing,
Mhm. Dude,
we
the
were
Jeff
wondering what the
Lemire
hell
thing
happened.
drives that's the craziest part to me. Um, is that they managed to get him back
Yeah.
because he wrote off not just DC but Marvel. He said he was done with the big two.
Yeah.
Like, it was when Dan DiDio was still at DC and they were really trying hard to put the 5G initiative together. And they had said like Lemire was going to be in charge of Green Lantern Dark, or it wasn't, I don't think it was called that at the time, but it was like it was like a version of the Green Lantern that could almost like ferry people to the dead. It was really interesting. It was cool. I liked the concept behind it. It was like a more like horror based Green Lantern book,
Right.
and it would have like led into an entire line of books led by Lemire. And this was kind of stuff that we found out way later on. Um, but some behind the scenes stuff happened between him and Dan, and he pretty much said, "All right, fine, peace out. Like
Right.
I'm never gonna work in Marvel or DC again. Like I'm done with it." So he made his stance pretty clear. I mean, up until now. So it makes me wonder if with Dan being gone,
Probably.
Jim Lee or whoever's responsibility that was probably like, we really need to fix that
Yeah.
because here, like Lemire is also a once in a generation talent.
Uh-huh.
Like he is one of the best, like just like storytellers. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to be just like a comic writer, whatever. Like the dude has like directive credits on television. Like a lot of his stuff is being adapted into TV and movies. He is just a damn good storyteller.
100%.
So
He's
like,
so consistent. Consistent is like,
yes. And like I hear all the time people are like, well, he just used like the generic tropes or he does this. I'm like, yes, he does. I'm like, but he does them well.
mhm,
He does them with a lot of like, heart, and he does them with a lot of like surrounded by a lot of interesting stories. I think is why a lot of the time I feel like I'm okay with the tropes that he uses because it's just
right.
this content he's putting out is interesting.
Yeah. I
So
noticed
like,
he's very in tune with like the heartfelt content. You're always gonna feel he's pulling on some of your heartstrings in any Jeff
yeah,
Lemire.
like I mean, even like his new book that's coming out in September, Minor Arcana. I have the advanced edition for that, and I read through it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's not like the typical book that I would find myself reading, but it was really good. There was an emotional setup. There's like a mysterious there's a hook to keep me intrigued on the next issue. Like
Yeah.
there's like a lot of cool character interactions because it kind of drops you in the middle of this person's life and you have to learn like how did they get here? Why is their relationship with their parents and their people in the city that they grew up in the way that it is? Like why
Yeah.
are all these things the way that they are? Like I mean, Black Hammer is a really good example of that. He takes most generic superhero tropes and flips them on its head, and he's done it successfully because the Black Hammer universe is over 100 issues long right now.
Right.
It ended with the end, but it's starting up again with Spiral City in a couple months. Like it's
Right.
the dude is just a workhorse. He'll never stop.
Yeah. 100%.
So that was a relationship they really, really needed to repair, and they did
Mhm.
because he's writing two new books for DC. I guess we could just keep doing the DC announcements before we get to Marvel because Marvel didn't have a whole lot.
No. They
Um,
so we got we got Dennis Camp.
you want to talk about? Yeah.
Dennis
Well, like
Camp.
before we get into the absolute stuff,
Yeah.
the first title Lemire was not the first, but the other title that Lemire was announced for is Justice Society of America.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. Which is great because this
Very,
JA right
very cool.
now has been taking like 5 months per issue.
Yeah, and guess what, dude? It got delayed again.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's never gonna stop.
Yeah.
I don't think this book is gonna
And
come
there's only
out.
one issue left, so I don't understand.
No, there's two.
Oh,
The the 11th one was supposed to be out last month.
see, and I don't know. Like I said, I have to wait because I don't even remember the whole story of this current JSA thing because it's been like
This
four
is the
months in
same thing
between
that
issues.
happened with Doomsday Clock.
Yeah,
The same thing.
yeah.
But I feel like
This
this is
isn't even
kind
as
this
important as Doomsday Clock.
yeah,
So
I feel like it's worse. Like, and here's the thing is like is it just John's like not finishing the script so it can be done? I don't know what it is
yeah,
because at this point it's like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, just finish this book. Like, even if you're just phoning it in, finish the assignment, drop the fucking book, and just let me finish it.
it almost just seems like he's kind of doing it out of spite at this point. Just kind of like,
Yeah, or it's DC being like, hey, we're just gonna keep pushing this back,
you
like
want to
what?
go into Ghost Machine? We're gonna keep pushing it back. Screw you. Yeah.
It's just yeah, like, either way, like it just kind of seems petty. Like at
Mhm.
this point, it's like just release the damn book so I can finish it and be done with
I
it.
mean, it has to look that way, right? Because I mean, he Jeff Johns was such a big part of the Infinite Crisis to New 52 to Rebirth, like
Yeah,
that, all of that. He was one of the biggest architects. So to kind of see him just kind of DC have him fall to the wayside, you can't help but think something happened.
yeah, exactly. Like, and we're probably not ever gonna know what
No.
happened, but it's also like, the red flags are going, we can see them. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, man. I gave up hope on that book, which is why okay. Hot take, maybe.
Mm,
While I think John's JSA stuff is good, I don't think it was a good choice to basically let him be the only one that writes them for the last decade or
right.
so. Not a good move, which is why I'm very happy that Lemire is taking over because we're gonna get a really, really fresh take on this team, and I think it's needed. It's 100% needed. Like, and
And
we're
now
gonna
that
get
all the sidekicks are back, it's going to be a big
yeah,
cast. It's
it's
going to
gonna
be
be a
good.
really, really cool lineup, I think. I think it'll be
Yeah.
a really good book. Um, but yeah, that was really the only other that was like the other big one, right? Really? Oh no. There was so this will be bridging the all-in initiative with the absolute universe. This next
Right.
book is, and it is Fourth World by Ram V and Evan Cagle.
What a team. That when I
Like,
heard that, dude, I woo,
it's
like
fire, dude.
that's almost up there with the JLU announcement for me. Like hearing
Yeah.
that, I've been
Um,
wanting a fourth
so
world book for
yes. So for those that don't know, Ram V and Evan Cagle, they kind of started teaming up when they did the detective stuff, right? He was doing the covers for, or he
yeah,
has been doing covers for detective.
yeah, incredible
Recently.
covers too.
Yeah, and
Incredible
the
covers.
covers look so sick, dude. They're so
Yeah,
cool. So he started doing covers with Ram for detective, and then they have been working on a five. I'm pretty sure it's just 5 parts. Miniseries over at Dark Horse called Dawn Runner, and the art in that is uh, insane, like absolutely crazy. Like it's good. It's so good, man. So like I'm super like this is just gonna be crazy.
yeah,
Like
100%. It's gonna be
and
nuts.
this is gonna be awesome. Like
Yeah.
and
And
this will
not
be
only
bridging.
that, the fact that this is tied in with Darkseid now, and Darkseid is basically creating its own universe, and we're going to have a fourth world book. It just feels like the DC cosmology is all coming together to be this, like, not just a world, but like the whole, like, multiverse is coming
Yes.
together to feel lived in.
Which oh, excuse me. I think smart move on their part because you have like to basically tell us up front that the absolute universe and the prime DC universe are two halves of the same story being told over the next several years, and then they'll come together for something
Right.
super smart.
Absolute crisis. We know we're going to get absolute crisis. That's
Yeah.
eventually going to come. So,
So, and I think the reason they're doing that is because they don't have somebody like Hickman that they can sit there and say, okay, we're just gonna let you cook for a couple years and see where it goes. Because I feel like with the Ultimate Universe, I know less about the direction of this universe than I do Absolute, and Absolute's not even out yet.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Absolute We've been told they're all underdogs. Everything that makes them heroes in the Prime universe, they don't have. All of their like, characteristics are different. Some of the things that they like, the material things that they own, some of the trials and tribulations they've been through are different or they didn't happen. Like it's just like different versions of these heroes right out the gate. And we know that it was Darkseid, and we know that there is going to be like a culmination of it all in a couple years.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we'll find out. But like it's nice to see that there's like a clear cut game plan for this. And it makes me even more confident in it when you put a lot of strong creative talent behind it,
Yeah.
the way that they have,
Yeah.
like, and we'll just go down the list, like Absolute, Superman, Jason Aaron, Rafa Sandoval. I will be definitely trying it out.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Rafa did an incredible job with House of
yeah,
Brain,
with House of Brainiac, yeah,
Sympathy, you know.
and he did a sick ass job when he was doing Flash for Williamson back in the day, dude. Like
Yeah.
good stuff.
And
Um,
the action run with PKJ was great.
yeah. But yeah, so that's gonna be like Superman who doesn't have the Kents, doesn't have the farm, doesn't have the fortress, came as a teenager, not a baby. And then you have Absolute Batman, which is by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragata. Um,
It's like a 20-year-old just yoked
yeah,
up
he's
to
just like a
Batman.
blue collar mechanical engineer, like no money, no mansion, no butler, just a gritty like street brawler kind of deal.
Right. And Alfred's not like a butler. He's
He's like
more,
he's like a secret agent.
yeah, pretty
And
cool.
then you have Absolute Wonder Woman, which is like Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman, I think is who the artist is.
Hmm.
Um, no sisters, no island, no, hope, none of that stuff. Like,
She was very magic based, I guess. That's what.
yes, it seems to be like very magic based and very like and I keep saying like a very God of War like
Yeah.
vibe I keep getting from like the concept art and like the descriptions we're getting. Um, and then after that is so we already knew about those going into Comic-Con,
Right.
but we've and we had heard inklings about the others that I'm about to talk about
Hmm.
prior, but they didn't announce two more of them until Comic Con. So first we had Absolute Flash, which is by Lemire and Nick Robles.
Hmm.
So Nick Robles did art on a book called Behold Behemoth for Boom a couple years back with Tate Bramble.
Okay.
Um, it's like a post-apocalyptic book where this little girl turns into this giant. It's almost like Attack on Titan in the sense that this little girl can turn into this giant like monster. But the only thing that can help her like kind of keep her under control is like this guy that has a staff, but he's also like deeply connected to her. Like they have some kind of connection that we don't learn about till later on in the series, and like how they met and how they how they interact and why they're connected. And you find that out like it happens prior to like this apocalyptic event happening.
Right.
So his art is phenomenal, bro. It's so good. So like I'm super confident that this is gonna be a really good book. So, and the description for that one was it's Wally West and he does not have a Barry Allen.
Right. And I will be dropping Spurrier's Flash for this one. So that's
I
what.
mean, I'm almost there, man.
Yeah.
I think I could be getting there pretty quick.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was Absolute Green Lantern. We didn't get a lot of info about that. We just saw some art. That'll be Al Ewing, and I do not remember who they said the artist was going to be, but
I don't remember.
either way, it'll be
I'm
cool.
getting it because it's Ewing. It's you.
Yes,
I trust in
I'm
you. We trust. So,
straight up, dude.
and then
Crazy Owl Father, right?
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
but
And now what I'm stoked also is we finally get in a Martian Manhunter book. Finally, my boy John is getting some damn,
yes,
like
John Johns. But yeah, so that and Absolute Martian Manhunter will be written by Dennis Camp, which, as we all know, also writes the Ultimates.
yep,
Uh,
banger job by the way at that.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
Been really good so far. 2 issues in, plus the free comic book day story. Good stuff.
right. Now
Um, Marvel.
Marvel.
There's not a lot to talk about other than like the MCU stuff. Um,
Well, we got Jerry Duggan.
yeah, Jerry Duggan is doing a West Coast Avengers story or series that is kind of spinning out of Avengers Inc. by Al Ewing. I was excited when I saw the picture, when I saw the art for it. Then I saw Jerry Duggan was
Mhm.
announced to write it, and I was immediately not excited.
Right. It just
Actually,
kind of shows you the contrast of like where DC is helming their creative teams and where they're putting them, and
yeah,
where, just between Marvel and the recent X-Men announcements and then all these announcements, just kind of feels like they're just filling in spots. Like it just
yeah,
feels, they're putting people wherever. They're not really.
right. Like it seems like they're kind of doing the same thing DC is, right? Where they're doing this like nostalgia bait, where they're trying to get people in who like may not be in right now, but like you get some people that were like in the 90s, and you like throw some titles out that might have like new volumes of books they read back then, you know. I feel like Marvel's taking all the wrong lessons from that and just saying like, here's a West Coast Avengers book, but it's by a writer that hasn't really done anything with those characters in the last couple
Right.
years. And it's like, just give the book to Ewing. Like
Yeah.
the dude will literally write anything.
Yeah.
He knows everything. Just let him write it. So like, and even if it was going to be, and I guarantee you, this is not going to be that long of an ongoing. It'll get canned before it hits 20.
Right.
It always does. Duggan's Iron Man canned at 20.
Yep.
The run before that, you know what I mean? Like the only book that he's been on for a long time was what? X-Men?
Yep.
Because of X-Men.
Yep.
And I read some issues of that here and there, and it was
Yeah.
um but yeah, so that's really the big like one of the big ones. The other one was the TVA announcement. So for those that don't know, Marvel is going to be doing a limited series, and it is directly connecting the MCU to the comics multiverse. And they're like kind of merging the MCU's TVA with the comics TVA to do this.
So
It's not a good idea.
so confusing.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Whatever. And here's the thing: is like I don't really want to spend a lot of time being like the hate train. It's just
But
not.
the next one we got to talk about, I'm gonna be a hater.
I mean, I'm gonna be a hater too, but like we've got like 6 minutes left, so I'd rather talk about turtles. But let's just get through this really fast.
Yeah.
um, then there was the MCU panel. It was really really brief. They talked about Thunderbolts a little bit. They talked about Captain America. They talked about Fantastic Four. We got there was some footage that was shown. People are really, really loving Galactus from what they saw. So that's exciting at least. Like there's some good things to look forward to in that at least. But then we got the big announcement of the evening after that. They're renaming Avengers 5 to Avengers Doomsday. It'll be out in 2026, and then Secret Wars will be out in 2027.
Right.
The end of that, they announced Doctor Doom.
Mm.
But it was not an announcement that any of us were expecting, nor that we really, really wanted, I think. At least
Right.
they announced that Robert Downey Jr. will be returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom in Doomsday and Secret Wars, but they were specific in saying that it is Victor Von Doom.
It isn't a
There are
Tony Stark variant turned Doom. It's Victor Von Doom.
there are a lot of going theories right now. All of them, I think, could have credibility. We just don't know what the hell they're going to do.
Right.
Regardless, it's not a good move, I don't think, because you're limiting creative ability by just like putting somebody who's already been in this back into it. Like there are so many other choices out there. Like even if this is a temporary situation and you're gonna recast with a Prime Doom later on, why even go with Robert Downey Jr. then?
Desperation, man. They
Yeah,
just
I mean that's really
want
all
to
it is.
put people back in the movie seats, and
Yeah,
you want to make people care again. People stopped caring literally after Tony Stark disintegrated himself in Endgame. After
yeah,
that, like a
that's
lot
true.
of people jumped off.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan. I think we could have gotten better like Cillian Murphy or Mads Mikkelsen. I think Mads Mikkelsen would have been perfect for the role. I think he would have killed it.
Right, and if you're gonna already you reuse actors, just reuse the actor whose villain didn't really do much.
Right. But I'm not gonna stay hating on that. I wanted to
So
ask you, since you're not really a turtle guy, how was this for you? This first.
I actually enjoyed it. I'll keep my review pretty brief because I would like to see what you say about it for a couple minutes. I like the starting point with Raphael being in prison, but it kind of being like a sting operation.
Yeah,
Um, it's gritty enough to where I can enjoy it without it feeling like I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon, which is kind of why I like about Turtles. Like, people give that, like, early 2000s, like, CG movie a lot of shit. I
I
really
love
enjoy
that
it.
movie.
I
I
think
love
it's
that
good.
movie. Yeah,
So, yeah, I I'll probably read the next issue. I
yeah,
will. I was pretty confident in not reading it, but I think it was good enough, I'll give it a shot.
yeah. I like Joel Jones' art. I like this idea of Raph being in prison to keep basically prisoners in and to make sure that
Mhm.
and I thought it was pretty cool the way they went about it too. Like, this is the most at peace we've ever seen Raph. Like,
Yeah,
he's so at peace. He's so like it like because he's in like a place where I think he can truly be himself. He can
yeah.
keeping prisoners in check. He's completely in his own element, and he is
Right,
at
and he's like
peace.
'cause he really thrives when he's alone, you
Yeah,
know? So, like, to see him to do what he likes to do, beat up bad guys, but also, like, kind of accept the fact that he's okay being where he's at if this is where he's gonna be for a while,
right.
which almost like he's resigned to defeat, but also it's, like, on his terms,
Exactly.
which is an interesting, like, spot to put like, to take the character from in the beginning and see where he'll go as the series progresses.
Right. And basically what happens is his warden ends up getting murdered, the guy who was putting him on to keep these prisoners in check, and he gets murdered by members of the Foot Clan who they were supposed to, of course, have a peace with, which we find out that's not the case. So now he's going to seek out his brothers,
Yeah.
because he basically
And
knows
it's not Shredder anymore, right? It's his daughter or granddaughter?
it's Karai. It's Karai.
And
I
is that
believe.
his daughter or
Yeah, that's
granddaughter?
his daughter.
Okay,
Karai's
okay.
his daughter. So uh I think this will be cool. I think this is a good way to start it. Like I said, this is completely reminiscent of Mirage, where it goes Raphael one, then Michelangelo number one, Leonardo one, Donatello one, and then we get the turtles all together.
Yeah.
So I love it. I can't wait to see. I think Joelle Jones knocked it out of the park. Loved her art. Uh, and I can't wait to see what Albuquerque does for Michelangelo next.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
When is that
super
do you know when
cool.
it comes out? Couple weeks?
It's yeah, a couple weeks for sure next month,
Oh,
but
yeah. I'm looking forward to it then. I'll give it a
yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Alright, guys. Well, thanks for chatting some Comic-Con news with us and some turtles here at the end. I will not be Ryan next week. I promise. I
Yeah,
will not be Ryan next week.
we'll swap back
Alright, guys. Take care.
later on,
Peace.
guys.